Hello, good morning. Welcome to our webinar. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We're happy to have you here, and we're looking forward to an interesting session on how to improve product discovery with an e-commerce search strategy. I'm Patrick Mikolai, Marketing Manager here at Intershop North America, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Today, we'll hear why search is one of the most strategic and sometimes overlooked aspects of B2B e-commerce. We'll identify some pitfalls of site search and show you how you can improve your customers' product discovery journey with some simple but impactful improvements. Our two industry experts today are Octavio Perales, VP of Delivery here for Intershop North America, and Robert Newman, Chief Digital Officer for our Platinum partner, CSS Commerce. Octavio has a 20-plus year track record of successfully leading the deployment of e-commerce platforms and business-enabling technologies, and helps our clients to define and sharpen a path to success when implementing or modernizing their e-commerce business operations. Rob is CSS Commerce Chief Digital Officer, who has been on the forefront of digital transformation in the B2B sector for also over 20 years. His expertise in IT and digital is primarily focused on digital solutions and corporate transformation strategies to impact productivity, growth, and efficiencies for clients in the manufacturing and wholesale space. Before we get started, just a short housekeeping note here. If you have any questions for our speakers, for our experts at any point, please post them in the chat here on the right side of the screen. We will certainly be monitoring these questions throughout the session, and we'll work through them in our Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And now, without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Octavio and Rob. So, thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy it and gain some great insights.
We're going to start with talking about the B2B customer journey and what makes it unique. Rob will then get into his discussion around product discovery, 5 things that you can do now to improve your site, some good and some not so good examples and case studies of product discovery implemented currently at different companies. Certainly the benefits that you can expect to reap if all of this is done right. And then we will wrap this webinar up with a Q&A session. So I think this first slide really answers the question of why we are talking about this topic at all. COVID-19 thrust us all into a digital world overnight, whether we were ready or not. B2B companies that were traditionally very hands-on and provided a high-touch level of service really have, for the last 2 years, been forced to up their online presence to approach a user experience that rivals B2C. And just to be clear, it's not a question of search features and functionality. Intershop's e-commerce platform provides the same robust features to both B2C and B2B merchants, but instead it's about quickly closing the knowledge gap on how to optimize product search and how that extends down to the product data that supports it. And although merchants are the ones having to quickly adjust, today's B2B buyers have very sophisticated and specific expectations and hold much of the leverage. When we look at this B2B customer journey, it's very similar to the typical B2C journey. It begins with being discovered online through a well-executed SEO strategy, then to the explore stage where site search is king, then processing through a friction-free checkout experience that is ultimately followed by after-sales support for your purchased products. The big difference here is really the motivation behind what drives a buyer. A B2B buyer is not progressing through this journey for pleasure or for personal gain. This is work. And although their motivation may be different, today's B2B customers really expect no less of an experience than what they can get from their favorite B2C site. And so for today's presentation, we will focus on the explore stage. And with Rob's guidance, we will be able to meet the expectation of today's B2B buyers as described in the first 3 bullets, where we see a very high dependence on search, but still looking to improve on a very imperfect process as described in the last bullet. And now we're going to invite Rob to begin his discussion. Rob?
All right, here I am. Well, thank you all for coming, and thanks for joining. I see that we've even added a few more as we've gone along. What I want to talk about, right, is Octavio just presented some really great data, right? In B2B, it's a longer buy process unless you've got established vendors, right? You need to research, you need to understand, you're looking for technical details, you're looking for the ability to find exactly what you're looking for. And he just showed 90% of people start online. That's not a surprise. So your online presence is actually the catalog, the front face of what it is you do for customers. And so here's the thing, right? As people come to your e-commerce site, some of the things that happen are you may hear from them, wow, the site doesn't return any results when I type in a search. They must not have what I'm looking for. I wonder why they don't have anything, or how is it that they don't have what I'm looking for. It seems like they don't have as wide a selection or the information that I want. Perhaps even finding something, there isn't the description power for them to be enticed into really believing that you are a possible supplier or a possible vendor for them to buy from. And that becomes really frustrating to buyers. And what happens is frustrated buyers leave and they go to someone else, and they do it rather quickly. And you can take a look at your site data and look for how long do new buyers, new people come and stay versus, of course, folks who buy from you repeatedly. So this is number one. It's an opportunity to really grab people who have never come to your site before. And let's see here. I'm going to tell Patrick, it doesn't look like my site moving my, am I enabled? There we go. Thank you. So, how do you know you need help with a B2B search, right? Go take a look at your own site. And there are a few things we're going to look at. There are a few things that really help, right? And so the first one is, do you always return results? Or are you only doing exact results? Do you return multiple results? And why is that important? When you're looking at results and you think about what Octavio was saying about we need to be closer and closer to a consumer experience, let's think about what Amazon does, right? It always gives you a choice of things. And if we could give a B2B buyer a choice of exactly what they searched for, but some other items that might either be bundled with it, an alternative, parts for that particular item, or if you have your own branded line of a higher margin, entice them to take a look at something that fits exactly the same, but maybe your brand at a higher margin. How does that impact your capability to drive revenue and change the satisfaction of both your current buyers and potentially new ones? Well, here's the thing you need to know. 70% of your purchases to 80% of your purchasers search. Go take a look at your buys, and you're going to see that the bulk of your money is coming from people using your search, not wandering around your website and not kind of randomly looking, or even going to a specific page. There are people who are driving for information and looking for it. So the real thing is to be able to make sure that they can always find what they're looking for. I like to actually call this product finding, not just product search. It gets a little confused with SEO. But let's take a look at the next slide here. And there we go. Whoops. I'm clicking too fast. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. How do you know you're going to get a win? All right. First things to do. When you're looking at search, make sure you don't get a blank page. Make sure that the results result in something. offering more options than what a customer originally matches to, or alternatives, is highly desirable. Allowing people to actually see products as you type across that fuzzy search bar makes your site look really blazing fast. Go check out the PWA calculator with Think by Google, which I'm happy to share a link to. It'll measure your site speed. And what Google has found is that for every tenth of a second in site speed you improve, you actually can change your conversion by 8%. Not 8% total, but 8% on your conversion. You rip a half second off of your load time, and conversions are very, very large to improve. It begins to really stack up. You can at least make it appear, if you have a slow site, you can make it appear that your site is very fast with simple product search changes. If people are having a really hard time searching and finding what they're looking for, we think that what you want to do is, before they leave the site, pop a chatbot or invite them to talk to a salesperson. This is where interaction shines. No one really likes to be talked to by salespeople until they're ready to be talked by salespeople, but don't lose them from your site without being able to actually describe what's going on. And then we're going to talk about the most important thing, which is improving the descriptions and data inside of your e-commerce. The number one thing in the long process that changes your ability to present a better search is more information. And we're going to talk about why that's important. And I'm also going to mention why it's important that Intershop provides a great platform for doing this because of its deep data capability and its solar search. And as we work with customers across industry, it's solar search that we look for to really provide that rich experience. Now, the first temptation you might have is, well, I'll just put in AI. I love AI. I'm an automation engineer by training. But if the AI doesn't have anything to use as data and it doesn't have anything to learn from, AI is not going to make a change. So while I appreciate there are lots of software products out there, there's nothing like good old elbow grease sometimes to spiff up what's going on in your site. And it's a whole lot more effective. Let's take a look. Okay, I'm now going to show you real search results. I've selected a variety of folks that do it well, some folks that we've worked with, some people we haven't worked with, but they make a great point. And what I'm going to do is we're going to search distributors around plumbing products. Very common, spread around the world. We've got to have toilets and sinks and everywhere. So how well can someone find what they're looking for? Well, the first thing is, when I said null search, this is not for the faint of heart. Here's the thing. If you see, I typed in PVC pipe 5, and then I used the inch sign, which is a quote. The quote broke the search. So one of the things you want to do is, let's make sure you can handle misspellings, common, IN period, quotes, slash, and it's not going to break your site. This happened with someone we now work with, and I can tell you this won't happen anymore. But this is actually the one thing worse than presenting nothing. Way worse. Let's look at the next example. Okay. Once again, a null search, or I don't have what you're looking for. This site is really interesting because it's an odd answer, but I'm going to leave that aside. They at least put something up that says, you searched for something and my site can't find it. And they're saying, look, we've redone our site, right? And what you're looking for has moved. Okay, that's better than providing broken links, 404 errors, or even just a blank page. And so what I did is, I'm unusual. I actually read their instructions, and they said, go search in this search box for what you're looking for. Okay, let's see what happens. So I started to write Kohler, and I went here because I wanted you to see how far I went, right? So Kohler, popular plumbing brand. What comes up isn't plumbing at all. In fact, I would be convinced at this moment, although I know that it's not true, that they don't have any Kohler or any kind of plumbing whatsoever, because what I see is electrical products, and that would have surprised me. And at this point, now I've tried twice, and you really only get 2 at-bats generally. Because one of the reasons why we say on the second search, if they're not finding where they want and they're about to go off page, you want to pop that bot. Don't annoy them, but I'd leave. What about you? All right. Now we're going to move to a little bit better. So here's a site with sports goods distributor, right? And now what we have is a typical manufacturing type and distribution type category search. Great. I've searched down, I want binoculars, and I'd like them black. Here's what's good about this search, right? It's not just black ones. The first one they provided is a totally black binoculars. The second one is a partly black binoculars. And it gives you a set of options around price point and around what it is that they have. And it's not all the same brand. We have Bushnell and we have Athlon. So the great thing is, I may not want to spend the $361. Even though as a distributor, by the way, this is outside the website. This is a MSRP. Obviously, their customers get a discount once they log in. But you get to take a look. And by the way, that's a good practice as well, letting people search without having to create an account. It's a much brighter way to go. And we can talk about that in another session. But that's what's good about it. Now, the problem is, where do I, other than using buttons, where do I refine searches? Let's take a look at another. All right. Now we're going to start talking about faucets. So faucets. Now I know this place does plumbing, right? And I start typing in faucets. And the great thing is it does talk about faucets. It shows pictures as I'm typing and allows me to begin to really focus down on what I'm looking for. That's what's great about it. It does have categories on the left, but I know that when I'm typing, it's beginning to provide answers to what I'm looking for. We're getting better. Let me show you the next one. All right, popular brand, American Standard. Now, here's the thing about this one, right? That is, we've only shown American Standard. We aren't showing necessarily what the most popular American Standard items are, right? I might be typing in something and look for a variety of things. They're starting with parts. This is a huge improvement over our first example, but let me show you what search can look like. Cool. All right. This search gives you a variety of opportunities to understand. Number one, I really do have Kohler. I can immediately add it to my cart if that's exactly what I'm looking for. But it pulls out brand suggestions, suggested search terms, as well as doing the photos, the cart, all of it in one stop. And I can shop everything with a set of pictures below that I can begin to search for. Now, you might say this only works for simpler items. That's not true. If you have complex items, assemblies, complex parts, services, maintenance things that go along with your assemblies, it's all the more important that you have more data, more photos, more drawings, so that when someone is coming in, right, we heard 90% of B2B buyers start online trying to figure out who the vendors are that they're even going to talk to. By starting there and providing better information, you are much further along the process to being able to get someone to buy from you. Further, right, on this option, I can now present easily, even though I present Kohler, I can present American Standard, I can present branded products that is their own brand, and and actually weight it in such a way that I determine the order in which they show up. Do you ever notice how the Amazon branded product always shows up at the top? Well, it does on their business site too, by the way. If you've ever used Amazon for business, you'll see that their rich search is just the same. And those kinds of differences in service are going to make a huge difference in the long run. All right, let me talk about how do we get ROI out of this, right? What's really driving the money behind it and why is it worth it? Well, number one, I just shared with you, you don't need to go invest in new software. You don't need to go buy an expensive AI tool until you actually look at what are you trying to accomplish. And I'd suggest the things that you really want to do is you want to retain your site visitors to be able to convert them into new customers. You want to demonstrate that you are able to provide everything that folks are looking for when they come to your site, which includes customer loyalty, right? Most repeat customers come to repeat buy the same thing. But of course, we know they're far more likely to try buying something new from you than going and looking for another vendor. Therefore, it gives you customer retention. It gives you a higher loyalty. And what you want to do then is we're able to change margins. We're able to change revenue because what can we do with all of that? We can present cross-sale opportunities. We can present upsale, or we can present higher margins. Your margin on one item might be higher than another, and you can weight that, not so that you're excluding things, but so that you're providing more and more options. This will only drive deeper and deeper as we move forward. You've already seen Octavio present how much, we've increased 40% in B2B in just a record, call it a year and a half of time, because a lot of folks really didn't do anything. For our experience was a lot of folks didn't do anything for the first few months of COVID while we were trying to figure out what does this mean. But in the last year and a half, the amount of adoption has been huge. The thing is to make it smart, right? Take the e-commerce sites and make them smarter. And that's what we're really trying to do. The other thing that you can get out of it for some really great return on investment is the data you gain. One of the things we do is a lot of reports for customers using search data that illuminates patterns and behaviors that you're not going to get out of SEO and you're not going to get out of Google. What it does is actually we inform back to the company, here's some terms you should be putting into SEO, because when someone comes to your site, that's actually what they want. Most SEO companies have no idea what your customers want. There aren't a lot of great B2B ones out there, so educating them and how your company works and how you can make more revenue working with them is really practical and important. So what's the real numbers coming down, right? The real numbers are that you can see a 3 to 8% revenue increase very, very quickly, and your profit would increase as well. And as we present more and more margins over time, those kinds of numbers add up, particularly in this era where our supply chains are strained. And I don't know where anyone gets an idea that it's 6 or 7% interest inflation. Every number I've heard from every owner I've talked to, it seems a bit higher. So those kinds of numbers are really interesting. Let me move to the next one here. All right. So let me kind of summarize what we talked about, right? Buying behavior has completely changed. Everyone is moving online. 90% start online, and 68% of the folks are unhappy when they are online looking around. I'd rather be someone satisfying a potential customer because it's like your first meeting. And if it's your first meeting, let's make a good impression. The opportunity to completely transform your organization is another piece of the ROI. We have a couple of customers who are able to shift their salespeople from taking orders into seeking new clients and even driving them back to the website. There are some innovative things. Sure, there's channel conflict issues, but if you incent your sales force right and you begin to use an e-commerce site cooperatively, you begin to drive real bonuses and commissions for your salespeople, as well as better repeat business for yourself. Those kinds of things are really transformative. Offering that better buying experience, what it does is it changes everything. It creates the sense that you are the expert in your industry, you have what they need, and actually increases the loyalty and trust from those who are visiting you. So that's the opportunity in front of us. Now, here's the greatest thing that I can offer you, right? And that is, we do search assessments. You get a nice report right out of it. It's free, and you will get very detailed explanation on 35 different criteria across 3 sections of a website. There's no commitment. There's nothing required. We happily email it to you so that you can change your user experience, your business results, and the actual data and search on your site. Happy to do it for you and with you. One of the reasons we work with Intershop is because they really offer one of the strongest search platforms inside the product. Intershop is a rare breed of enterprise commerce system that allows you to actually have the data and the search capabilities in one package, whereas competitors don't have it, which is why I build it for other people. With that, let me turn it back over to Octavio and say thank you so much for your attention and your time.
Thanks, Rob. Before we begin our Q&A, I wanted to highlight Worth, an Intershop customer going on 10 years that does a really great job in facilitating product discovery. So some of the things that they have as best practices in action on the site, they do a great job. And Rob mentioned this earlier. This is just the payback that you get by providing just great auto suggestion as part of your default search capability. Lots of visual cues. Really helps to speed the selection of product that is available to purchase. They do a lot to present information on product availability within their auto suggest. They also do a great job with faceted navigation and search, as well as really leveraging filters that have the capability to leverage multi-select capability, as well as, once again, providing product counts on each one of these different filters. So there's a lot of this functionality that sort of trickles down into this entire search experience. Of course, lots of rich product imagery. There's thousands and thousands of products on the site, and it could be really easy, to not try to provide, complete product images across their catalog. But Worth does a phenomenal job of this. I think this is certainly one of the strong points. And then certainly underlying all of this, fantastic search capability, it's just a very rich and robust, comprehensive product data set that really is what enables them to use our platform in the most optimal fashion. Lastly, I wanted to mention some of the exciting features that Intershop has enabled for customers across the globe, including mobile device-based search and exploded visualizations of complex machinery that really helps to increase the accuracy of ordering as well as the speed of locating, in this particular case, replacement parts for complex machinery. And with that, I would like to open it up for our Q&A.
All right, I'm gonna pop back in here. We actually do have some questions from the audience here, so let's start working through some of them. Let me go ahead and start with the first one. I think it's for Rob. Rob, what kinds of search best practices from B2C retailers are the real important ones for me to consider? Which ones can be neglected in a business-to-business context?
Okay, great question. There are several parts to that answer, right? The first one I want to mention is don't forget mobile. One of the things that you need to realize is as we've become more and more of a mobile society, check your search both on the desktop and from a mobile perspective. In some cases, there are real differences that you should consider. You're going to see that in your sites, more and more mobile users are involved on your site, even though it may not be the best way to view your site. We're all busy, and we all do surfing from our phone now. Okay, with that, B2C versus B2B. I think the most important thing, right, is that you take very seriously the amount of data and the amount of information in B2B. It's actually more than is required or needed to run a B2C e-commerce site. You need more drawing, particularly in technical areas, drawings, description of fittings, diameters, materials. All of those things begin to play into something that is going to be sold B2B. So the technical information is higher. On the other hand, right, decisions in a B2B context are less about how other people perceive things. Like in B2C, you'll have ratings and reviews. It's far more driven by a buying, engineering, purchasing decision from a cost-benefit analysis. So it's very fact-driven, or at least much more fact-driven than a fashion site, or whether someone says that something works well. So the star ratings and things like that, you really don't need to worry about. What you should add, again, is a lot of data and matching opportunities, right? The more complex your products, the more you have to be able to also help someone navigate this goes with this. So in the context of what I was saying, that more data is really pretty important. The other thing that I would say is really think about how you get information searched on. Make sure your short descriptions are really packed with the keywords that people search.
Thanks, Rob. I think there is even a second question from the audience for you. It's about a PIM, product information management system. Do I need a standalone PIM system, and what are the benefits of it?
Okay, let me start with the benefits, right? So a PIM is a product information management system. They are tremendously valuable for complex e-commerce, millions of SKUs or lots of variations. That's what they're for. That's what they were developed for, and they do the job really well. You probably need one in the case of a very complex product, unless you're working with something like Intershop. Intershop is the most complete enterprise e-commerce system, and it's got the deepest data capabilities of any product on the market. In that case, I would say if you're using Intershop, you probably don't need a PIM until you get to some very complex or high SKU opportunities. The benefit is, as I said, with Intershop, you've got Solar for search, you've got tremendous hierarchical data capabilities, and the ability to store the kinds of information I've been talking about. Other systems, definitely look at a PIM.
Great, thank you, Rob. How long does it take to implement some of these enhancements that we were discussing today? Excuse me. Is this something that can be implemented in a few days or weeks, or will it take several months to half a year? Rob, I think that's also for you.
Yes. So the answer to that is yes, right? Look, I'm a huge Covey fan, and I always like to start with the end in mind, right? That's one of the things he put in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. So if the end goal, right, is a better experience, then we take that and we cut it up into pieces along the way, right? So the first thing you can do, you can absolutely do yourself, look, hit the few quick things I talked about, right? Eliminate not having any result in your searches. Your IT staff can probably really take a look at how to do that. That's the number one thing. The second thing takes a lot longer, and that is actually putting together the taxonomy, meaning how things are described and hierarchically put together. The real thing then is how to get that data searchable. That's the hardest piece, and that does take a while. But you can iteratively improve. And I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. You can iteratively improve along the way. And typically, the first phase of a project like this is about 3 months, where you get a tremendous uptick in capability, improvement in capability, and then you go Kaizen and you do continuous improvement from there.
Thank you, Rob. We have a last one that just came in, actually. It's a follow-up question to the PIM question that came in earlier. You mentioned that Intershop comes with a comprehensive PIM solution. Can you provide more details around this? Maybe you can answer that, Octavio.
I can take this, sure. Rob mentioned some of these already, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. Our e-commerce platform has a PIM embedded in it, and we're proud to call it a PIM as opposed to just a product management feature within our platform because of many reasons, to include some of the things that Rob mentioned. We support a very extensive and expansive data model for defining a product, and all of that is coupled with robust mass editing capability to really allow you to work with very large product data sets. We've got customers that are running up to 5 million products within our platform. So from a capacity perspective, we can handle very large data sets. We support, of course, multiple product types, including master variant products and the automatic creation of those based on different permutations, bundle products, retail sets for related products, digital products, services-based products, where we support unlimited product attribution, product relationships, the ability to create affinities between different products. We support multi-localization. So when it comes to multi-language, multi-currency, global taxation rules for products, all of that is available within our platform, as well as robust import-export features for all of the basic elements like categories, images, price lists. But we also support natively support external product feeds to services like Amazon and Google, as well as support for printed catalogs. So this is again our ability to export to design platforms like Adobe InDesign, so that folks can continue to support their printed catalogs is something that we again provide out of the box. And then I think the biggest differentiator, and again, the reason why we can even call our PIM a PIM, is because of the data quality management features that are embedded in our product. So we have algorithm-based completeness checks that can verify and validate information so that you're not, posting products online that might not have pricing, might not have an image, might not have a description, might not have some other unique custom attribute that really has to be populated in order for you to, accurately portray this product online. So lots of feature functionality within our platform that, again, very much does rival a standalone PIM. I think a good example is one of our customers, a very large global conglomerate, billions of dollars in revenue, was able to use our PIM platform for about 24 months before they had to look externally for another PIM platform. So we were able to help defer some of those additional license costs and certainly services costs around implementing a PIM with the feature set that we provided out of the box.
Thanks, Octavio. I hope that answers the question.
Let me just add to what Octavio said.
Sure.
If you listen to all the features and all the things he just listed, that gives you an idea of how complex B2B commerce is and unfortunately needs to be, right? We're working on digital transformation for B2B companies. And the real start of digital transformation is actually getting the information for most of my clients, right? Whether they're manufacturers or distributors. One of the great things about a PIM, and in this case, Intershop, is that what it does is allow you to bring all that information together from your ERP, anywhere else, not just one source of truth, but build the full source of truth that's necessary to actually run commerce today.
Perfect, thank you. I think there's time for one last, and this can actually be a quick one. Rob, another one for you, actually. You mentioned the search assessment that CSS is offering. Is there a cost associated with it? And if so, how much is it?
None. So the written search assessment, right? It takes, just to be honest, right? I'll spend about 15 to 20 minutes, right? Taking a detailed look at your site. We have some tools that we also apply. Nothing invasive. I don't need to be in your back end, but it's completely free, right? And you'll get very concrete answers on what you can do for your site. And then obviously, if you'd like to talk about it more, that's what we're here to do and what we help customers with.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Octavio. Seems like there are no further questions at this point. But you can certainly always reach out to us even after the webinar. So please feel free to contact us. Octavio, Rob, again, I want to thank you for the input that you've been able to share with us today. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks to our audience for listening in. And a special thanks to CSS Commerce for joining today's Intershop Commerce talk here. As we conclude the discussion now, we'll be sending out a link to the replay of today's webinar to all registrants and attendees. So please watch out for an email from Intershop in the next hours. In the meantime, please check intershop.com, csscommerce.com for additional events and information that's been presented today. Again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions that may come up. And most importantly, have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe, and thanks again for joining us today. Bye.